Certain Stepdad here. I've come to talk to you about the divorce rate in the military and about some of the issues step parents have when it comes to doing things with the children that are not theirs. I know the divorce rate in the military is high, and I know part of that issue is because young soldiers marry strippers or other things like that just to get either the ability to live off post or they want the BAH is what it's called, which is additional money because of having a family. These soldiers end up getting divorced later on in the career because either their spouse cheats on them are causing financial constraints that should not be an issue because that spouse is spending money faster than it is being made. I mean, with the cheating, we refer to that individual that is causing the spouse to cheat a Jody. We always call him a Jody. And Jody is prevalent in society. And then when it's another soldier doing it, that is also termed as a blue falcon. We call it another term, but it's not suitable for young ears. Then there is some issues where it's just differences or falling out of love. I mean, there's some spouses that get a divorce because they can't handle the deployments. But it is a tough thing to get yourself involved with. I mean, my wife knows what she got herself into, and she understands that I may be gone from time to time. My little one, that's only 8 months old at this point in time, has never experienced this, and by the time he's old enough that he's gonna full on remember everything, I am going to be out of the military. But his sisters will be able to tell him what it's like not to have their father figure around. And I've been raising these two since they're like 3 and 4. So they know what it's like because they've been through a deployment. I'm not going to go into the terminology on what we call some of the individuals that abuse their spouse's position and stuff like that. Because not all of them are like that. Like the typical definition of what they're considered. Now, on to the step-parent issues. Like, I've been through some of the process work to have financial assistance with the kids and all that. I was responsible for their food, but I was not responsible for their medical. And I was able to put them on my medical insurance, at least with the company I'm with now, because their father is pretty much, well, a deadbeat. He doesn't pay child support. Well, for the most part, I haven't seen child support lately, but when he pays child support, it's like $50. He's constantly without a job, and this is where my issue comes in, where some states don't really give the step-parents a whole lot of rights to even take care of medical necessities. I mean, here where I live, yes, I actually go to the doctor and say I'm in the doctor's office with the child and making sure they're getting their appointments and stuff like that, which is beneficial because the two girls only know me as dad because how long I've been taking care of them. I mean, I may have to have a fight with their biological father over custody in the event their mother passes away. But with the fact that he's been such a deadbeat where he hardly ever contacts them. I mean, so hardly that there is a statute where if he doesn't contact with them within a certain amount of time, it's abandonment. He has abandoned them, and that is something he's been close to doing several times, reaching that level of abandonment. He's actually had a drug overdose. He's not a very good person in general. He's the reason why, in the event that if my wife does pass away, I am going to fight tooth and nail to make sure I keep custody of the kids, because he's not going to be able to provide for them. He's not going to be able to do what's right for them. And actually, I believe there is also another statute that, I mean, at least at the age they're at now, that may give them the right to choose if they live with me or they go live with him. And I know that is going to be a pain on dealing with him, because if he gets a chance to try to get them back, he's going to try to get them back, and that's not going to be good for them. But there's so many different policies through each state on how step parents are perceived. I think we need to actually federally have it said where the step parents get these rights, because if we're going to let each individual state determine it, there's going to be no consistency, and this parent that is unfit is going to take the kid to a different state that does not have that process, where the defense helps the step parents keep that the children want to be with keep the child. I lost train of thought there. It happens, but I'm thinking it's the state that does not, the step parents have the right to keep the kids away from a parent that's unfit. It's gonna cause issues, and those kids are gonna have serious issues with that parent, and it could cause that parent could be abusive towards them. And I'm gonna say this individual that the girl's biological father, he pretty much was abusive. He pretty much locked him in a room, and I mean the doors didn't have lock, but he said he would set a vacuum with a mask in front of the door to keep them in that room. And the oldest was being potty trained, or at least was trying to potty train herself. Well, she couldn't go to the potty. She ended up being in a toy box. It pretty much was the last straw because he didn't want to do anything with the kids at night to make sure they got potty trained and all that. And I did all this. With the youngest two. Help with potty training, changing diapers, with very little experience on how to do any of this. But now with my son, I actually know how to do it, but it needs to be done to where these unfit biological parents that steal the kids away from a step parent that has been loving them and taking care of them for a long time needs to be dealt with, because some of these kids have actually ended up basically abused. Some have even died. But unfit parents should have their rights stripped away. I mean, yet some people may argue my wife was unfit because of him. But when she realized that she got enough and she left him. No matter how hard he tried, after me and her started dating, or at least hanging out, because we started hanging out, talking and all that. I played and had fun with the kids even before we were officially dating. But he was trying all he could to get her to come back to him. Being with me, she realized he was no good for her or her kids. And that made the decision. I'm not going back to him. He's not worth it. He's not fit to be a parent. So that led to where we are at now. I mean, he was an abusive person, an abusive person. And if you're abusive, I consider you scum, because you're abusing kids, abusing your spouse. You're scum. Kids need a positive role model in their life. Someone who sticks up for the people and that will protect them. Shows them that to look for good in people, but also defend themselves in the event of a bad person, or defend those who are not strong enough to protect themselves. I hate people that attack other people for nothing. I mean, even the claim of just because of the color of their skin. That's not a reason to attack someone. There's no reason to attack an officer because they're an officer. You can defend yourself, but you shouldn't be attacking people for nothing. Okay, go back, and I'm going to go back to my original speech now. But yes, states need to figure out a straight line. Well, get equal rights throughout this country, because there's no equality when it comes to step parents. we should, if we've taken care of those kids for 10 years, and they only know that step parent as their mother or their father, and that original parent can't hold a job, does drugs, constantly in jail. The state needs to look at those facts before just going, hey, he's the biological parent, he has the right. But if he's like that, it should be, hey, the step parent's taking care of this kid. They've got a job. They've been there for most of their life. The step parent's more fit to take care of that child. The original parent can still have visitation rights as long as he didn't pretty much disappear for most of their life without any contact. Because there is a limitation on how long they can be without contact. I think it's here in Iowa like 5 years. Which he's been close several times. He's been close. But if it should be mandated by the federal government, so to put a straight line on all the rights a step parent has, instead of each state having individuals, because their own individual section, because of kids being dragged across state lines and never being able to be brought back. I mean, there was a instance where a friend of mine had their kid's biological father take him across the state line because he had him for visitation, and a couple weeks later, a week or so later, because the father didn't bring the child back, they were filing an accusation of assault against a step parent. But from my reviews of the information that was provided, the bruising was not that old. Not old enough to be done by the step parent. It was done by someone else. Because the bruising after a week would be like faded. But these bruises were really dark. But and there's pretty much bribery also involved in that, because the other children that are with them, there's been no bruising, there's been no violence towards them, and he ended up in a legal battle on this whole thing. So it needs to be straight. Step parents' rights need to be straight across every state. So, but it needs to be straight across in every state. The same thing in every state. I know most states are about the same, but they need to be state mandated to be the same in every state, not just because the state felt like it was the right thing to do. It needs to be every state has the same thing, the same policy to keep children out of the hands of bad parents. And that's the end of my ranting. And remember, whether related by marriage, blood, or adoption, your family. And you gotta protect your family from those that are bad.